you're watching Talking Europe on France 24. I'm Catherine Nicholson. Thanks for being with us. Now, in this part of the programme, I'm very pleased to be welcoming to our studio the newly elected president of Georgia, Salomé Zourabichvili. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Now, your election at the end of 2018 marked a couple of firsts. You're the first woman president of Georgia, and you're the first Georgian president to have started life as a French citizen, in fact. So I'd like to bring the viewers up to date about your career up to this point. We'll be talking about the election, of course, about Georgia's European membership aspirations and relations with Russia. But yes, let's first take a look at Salomé Zourabichvili's journey from French diplomat to Georgian president.
Salomé Zourabichvili was born in France, the granddaughter of Georgian exiles who fled the advance of the Red Army in 1921. Educated in France and the United States, she only visited Georgia for the first time in 1986 while working for the French Foreign Ministry. Amid a lengthy diplomatic career, Zourabichvili became France's ambassador to Georgia in 2003. A year later, she became the first woman to serve as Georgia's foreign minister, appointed by then-President Michail Saakashvili, who also granted her Georgian citizenship. It was a short tenure. She negotiated the departure of Russian military forces from Georgian territory, but several disputes with a number of MPs saw Zourabichvili out of the job after just 1 year. She quickly joined the opposition and became one of Saakashvili's fiercest critics.
I think that Michail Saakashvili is now finished because you cannot always play with fire, you cannot play with your army, you cannot play with the Russian threat.
Zourabichvili first tried to run for president in 2013, but dual citizenship meant her bid was rejected by Georgia's Electoral Commission. Undeterred, 3 years later she ran as an independent candidate for parliament and won. Then, as an independent once more, though backed by governing party Georgian Dream, she gave up her French citizenship and entered the 2018 presidential race. She won by 59% in November's second round, making her Georgia's first female president.
Now, some of our eagle-eyed viewers will have spotted during that report France 24 sports editor Ketevan Gorjestani, who is our sports editor, but also your daughter. So we ought to mention that, I think. Ketevan was with you, in fact, for parts of what was a very tough-fought campaign. You and your family actually received death threats during that campaign.
I was very glad to have my children with me at the last stage of the campaign because it was really tough. Tough as a woman, tough as a political candidate, and tough in a country for which I've given up quite a number of things.
Including your French citizenship.
Including at last the French citizenship. That's a requirement of the Constitution.
You ran as an independent, as we said, with the backing, though, of Georgian Dream and its billionaire founder, Bidzina Ivanishvili. Now, there have been many suspicions openly voiced within Georgia about how much implication he had in your campaign, in your politics. How much say did he have?
Nothing. Except the fact that the party supported me. They made the choice to support me when the race was already ongoing and I was already candidate. And I didn't have any either prior consultations or any prior agreement on what I would do as a president. I'm now a president elected for 6 years with a mandate that has been the longest in Georgian history. And I won't run for any other elections. So that gives me complete independence, which is what also the ruling party has been assuming and ensuring me that I would be totally independent. And we'll see. Reality will show how much independent I am. But I think I'm known for that in Georgia and outside of Georgia. So.
Well, you were certainly an independent when you were a national MP as well. There's one particular case that was brought up by Transparency International, among others. It was about what happened before the second round runoff. There was an offer from the Cartu Foundation to write off the debts of some 600,000 voters. Now, Transparency International says that according to the chair of the Cartu Foundation, it was actually Bidzina Ivanishvili who took that decision. They're talking about vote buying. lying and extremely serious allegations. What's your response to that?
These allegations did not impact on the general judgment on the election. These decisions were not that new because they were in the program of the prime minister, new prime minister that came into power, and they have been realized much after the election. In fact, last month. So. Maybe it was not the exact right time, but anyway, it's not linked to me in any way. I was not part of that decision. I think
if there was to be any further investigation into it, was that something you would welcome?
There could be, but I don't think there will be. It doesn't look like. I think that the international organizations have acted the validity of the elections, have made a few recommendations for the next legislative elections, and the authorities have welcomed those recommendations and are eager to put them into place. And I will be also very eager to be a guarantor of those recommendations.
One relationship that Georgia has that I think perhaps most interests or fascinates the outside world is Georgia's relationship with Russia. This came into the election campaign in all sorts of ways as well. It's more than 10 years now since that brief but rather costly war for Georgia with Russia. 180 Georgians killed. There were quite a lot of refugees, and this real concretization of the Russian military presence in Abkhazia and South Ossetia, those breakaway regions.
The biggest, I would say, tragedy of this war was the fact that these occupied territories have been recognized as independent by Russia, not by anybody else almost in the international community. But that is something that is an everyday tragedy for Georgia on the occupying line, which is subject to everyday provocations. People are abducted. This line is being moved by Russian soldiers.
Well, you have quite a lot of harsh words for Russia yourself, saying they're behaving like an old Soviet imperialist power.
It's
Georgia
not harsh, it's factual.
Strong words, robust words. You must have gotten to know the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov pretty well when you yourself were Foreign Minister. Do you see a way to warm up these ties? Are you attempting to do so?
It's not a question of warming up. At that time, I negotiated with the Foreign Minister Lavrov the withdrawal of the Russian military bases, and the result was positive, and they withdrew the Russian military bases from Georgian territory. So it was a success for Georgia, without being a defeat for Russia. But unfortunately, I think that now Russia has gone back to the old idea that it's a zero-sum game, that if we move towards European Union or NATO, they're losing something. And as long as they don't recognize that the world has changed and that we're not living in zero-sum games anymore, it will be very difficult to deal with them. So we are at this stage unable to deal, and warming up is not something that depends on us. It depends on Russia. If they don't start with respect, there is no way we can go forward.
Of course, Georgia has European ambitions, European Union membership ambitions. I know that you've said that it's a priority for you to go further than the association agreement that was signed in 2014, actually join the EU. Considering the amount of Euroscepticism there is in Europe at the moment, that the fact that there are around 45% of European citizens who've told the Eurobarometer survey that they don't want more enlargement, are you genuinely optimistic this is going to happen? Do you have a timetable?
I am optimistic, otherwise I wouldn't be where I am. I think if I were not, I believe that anything can happen.
Georgia is geographically removed, isn't it, from the
That
rest
doesn't
of the
matter.
EU?
We are on the maritime border of the European Union. I think that things are changing very fast in the EU. We are still one of the rare countries that is Euro enthusiast. There are a few of them. And for that, I think that we're meaningful for the European Union. And I think that in these changes that the European Union is going through, there might be more spaces for Georgia than there was before, when everything was very set and very clear in the way European Union was going. So whether that will be and when membership, that's the way of defining the aspiration.
Because you're not currently on the list for accession.
That's right. But I think things are changing again. What does it mean? The most important is to get in the EU wherever we can get. Through bits and pieces, I would say we can get in the EU without being a full member in the political sense. And that's what we should aim at while waiting for the final decisions whenever they come in the form when they come.
Now, the issue of fake news is a big concern for the European Union. It was a big concern
For us
in
too.
the campaigns in Georgia as well. We've got one example of fake news that came from a Georgian outlet, but it spread into the EU as well. I'd like to get your take on this. This is fact or fake? So we are asking, has the European Parliament put the Russian Orthodox Church on a terrorist blacklist? This is a recurring bit of fake news in Georgia, where more than 80% of the population follows the Eastern Orthodox religious traditions. Now, it seems to have originated on the Georgian news site mediacity.ge in late 2016. MediaCity claims that the European Parliament's Foreign Relations Committee adopted a resolution equating the Russian Orthodox Church with the Islamic State group. The article includes a statement from the Russian President Vladimir Putin calling the supposed move a, quote, degradational approach to democracy. Well, the story also spread to outlets including Russia Today or RT, which were then picked up by outlets in Bulgaria, where a majority of people also follow the Eastern Orthodox faith. In fact, the real resolution calls on EU institutions to beef up their own responses to propaganda sponsored by the Russian government. And this resolution identifies, quote, a wide range of tools and instruments and lists as examples think tanks and special foundations, special authorities, multilingual TV stations, pseudo news agencies, and cross-border social and religious groups. The Russian Orthodox Church is not mentioned, and there's no equation of it with terrorist groups. So no, the European Parliament has not put the Russian Orthodox Church on a terrorist blacklist, and there are no moves to do so. Salomé Zourabichvili, has fake news such as this example had an impact in Georgia? Is it impacting your society?
Terrible, because there is a very big use by the population of the social networks. And as you know, social networks are the way to spread these fake news in a very massive way. In fact, in Brussels, when I was in the EU and as well as in NATO, I also asked there that we get some support, media training to fight what is, I think, the major disease today.
Well, fake news has indeed been classified as a military
threat too.
By some
We had
voices.
that in Georgia, where the Lugar laboratory, which is an old leftover from the American support after the Soviet Union disbanded, was accused of spreading the flu epidemic, and that was used then to close the border crossing points on the two occupied territories by the Russian occupiers.
Let's stay with that military theme, in fact. I know that it's another ambition of Georgia's to join NATO as well. Now, just last year, Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO, said that Georgia has the practical tools needed to join. He fully supports your country's membership, and you are meeting that 2% of GDP defence spending benchmark that Donald Trump, for example, has so highlighted. So why, considering that, do you think your NATO membership isn't moving forward? Is there a reluctance, perhaps, from other NATO members that it could upset Russia?
Well, I think it's again the political reality that makes it very difficult today for NATO to consider a new enlargement, including its relations with the new American administration. I mean, all of that taken together makes new moves difficult. But at the same time, same thing as with the EU. While we're waiting for things to clear up for future membership, we have to get more of everything, and more security from NATO, more cooperation, and we're getting quite a lot. We are going to have a very important military exercise on the Georgian territory, Georgia NATO, in March, in fact. The military committee is visiting, the Secretary General is visiting. So we're getting a lot of attention. We need more attention in the Black Sea due to the present circumstances. And we're getting more visits in the Black Sea. So all of that is increasing, enhancing Georgia's security. And that was important today. So today.
Well, during your election campaign, there was a comment that got a lot of criticism that you made about saying that Georgia was provoked and took the bait in 2008, and a small country like Georgia can't afford to be provoked. If there were a provocation, how would you react?
We're fighting provocations every day. Every
What sort
day
of provocations?
on the occupation line, there are people that are abducted. The occupation line is moved into the Georgian territory by the Russian military. And all of that is a constant pressure on Georgia to show that it is not in control of those territories. But we have to keep cool and continue going where we're going. NATO, European Union, that's our perspective. And nothing should distract us from that.
Just a final question. As I said, you are the first female president of your country. It's still quite a rare thing all around the world. Georgia does have a reputation culturally as being a very patriarchal country.
False. Fake news.
Fake news?
Fake news. We had a Georgian queen in the 12th century that is still considered as the most progressive. In 1918, the first Georgian independence after the Russian Empire, Georgia had the vote for all women, which didn't exist in many European countries, and elected 5 women into the newly formed parliament, which was small, so the percentage was probably higher than many other countries.
Only 15% currently. Is that something you intend to push forward during your presidency?
Yes, but one has to see at the same time that it's true that politically women are less maybe active, maybe due to the violence of the political campaigns, but they are very, very present in all the other parts of the Georgian society. We don't really have this problem, except strictly in politics, and that's probably going to change because role models play, as of course, and I hope they will.
Indeed. Well, thank you so much. We have run out of time. Salomé Zourabichvili, thanks for coming to see us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching the programme as well. We'll see you very soon for more European news here on France 24.